Hello, lover. You've just entered a portal of pleasure, power, and deep, unapologetic sensuality. This is Talk Tantra to Me, where we liberate your authentic self, reclaim the wisdom of the body, and let pleasure lead the way. I'm your guide, Leola, tantrika, pleasure priestess, best-selling author of Sacred Sex Ed, and devoted student of the erotic mysteries. I'm here to strip away shame and awaken your most radiant, sacred, and sensual self. Get in, babe. We're conspiring for your most pleasurable life and seducing the world into a greater good. So, take a deep breath with a vocal exhale, relax that delicious body of yours, and let's talk Tantra. Every woman has a pleasure superpower. Do you know yours? If not, I created the free Pleasure Power quiz to help you discover your unique pleasure archetype so you can maximize what comes naturally to you, deepen your confidence in your desires, and embody your pleasure with the most ease and power. When you take the quiz, you'll also receive a free Tantra ritual tailored to your unique archetype. This is designed to help you embody this aspect of yourself and not just understand it intellectually. Also, don't miss the free Sexual Shadow Work Workbook, your guide to clearing shame, activating your turn-on, and stepping into your most radiant embodied self. Find them both at www.talktantratome.com/free or get the link in the show notes. Life is about to get so very juicy. Hello, everybody. Hello, lovers. Welcome back to Talk Tantra to Me. I am so excited to have Dr. Stacy Ellis on the podcast. She is a clinical psychologist, and she has been a mentor of mine. She has been a great teacher of mine. I first met Dr. Stacy at a sexual shamanic training, which was really, really powerful. And in particular, I had one really potent moment with you. And I don't even know if you know what this is.
I don't. This is great.
So during one of the more intimate, shamanic sexual bodywork de-armoring sessions, I majorly froze. I had a major freeze and could barely get the support. And so, my partner kind of got that, and we raised our hands, and you just came over and looked me in the eyes, and that was it. It was just your presence and your attunement, and I really appreciated that and valued that. And it's just what I really needed in that moment. And it's so simple and powerful. So that had a massive impact on me, and obviously inspired me to get curious more about you and your work. And we worked together. And you kept talking about these liberation workshops, these inner child workshops. And I was like, that's it just wasn't. It didn't really excite me. It didn't feel fun or sexy or deep or which was not true at all in retrospect, but it just really didn't pull me in, And then obviously over time, after working with you and you kind of sharing liberation would really help you. Obviously I eventually had that experience. It was really potent and powerful for me. So with that being said, I would love to start off with one thing that you shared at the retreat, at the Liberation Retreat, which is a week-long kind of inner child experience, which I'm sure we'll get into more.
Yeah.
But one stat that you shared was 90% of all 90% of all relational conflict. Let me start over. Let's just start from the beginning of the stat. It's so funny. Before we recorded, I said it perfectly.
You did. It's great.
So 90% of all relational conflict comes from childhood attachment. And that's a really big percentage. That's a lot of conflict in relationship. And it really resonated with me. It really landed with me, not just in my romantic relationships, but also in my friend relationships and my relationships with my parents and my relationship to my business, etc. And I would love if we could start off with that. What are your thoughts on that? How did you come up with that stat?
So I've been working with couples in my practice for about 15 years. So you see themes over and over that show up. And so when someone is in your life in a consistent enough way and a safe enough way, all your childhood wounding starts to bubble up to the surface. Unless you have come into wholeness around your childhood. And we can talk about what that actually means.
Yeah.
But this container between you and your partner, and it will show up with your closest friendships as well. Like you actually have to be in an attachment with someone else. So these pieces will come to the surface and play out with the other person. And you don't necessarily realize it's happening.
Yeah.
They trigger you in the present moment and it feels awful and visceral. And so we make the mistake of projecting that onto them. But triggers, what is hysterical in the body is historical. So what a lot of people don't realize is those are coming from imprints from our younger years. Between the ages of 0 and 10, 80% of our imprints are imprinted. So our beliefs about ourselves, our beliefs about the world, our perceptions, our defenses, all imprinted before we're 10.
Yeah.
So we have this like old software running in the background that desperately wants to be upgraded. And so through this relationship, we're trying to find ways to upgrade it. But if we're not conscious that those triggers that our partner is bringing forth in the present moment isn't necessarily completely about them, then we get stuck in these patterns and loops with each other where we're just triggering after triggering. And I bet some people that are listening can relate to that. It's like, oh, why do we get stuck in these loops? It's because we have to go back to the beginning, the origins of where those imprints became imprinted, and understanding the core of that vulnerability and those wounds. Then you can come in with your partner and say, hey, this is part of my younger self. This is where my dad left and I have a fear of abandonment. This is where my mom was inconsistent. So I'm confused and don't know if I should trust you or not.
Yeah.
And then there's a deeper collaboration, a core collaboration around our inner child pieces, bringing in our mature adult to work with those pieces. So it adds a dimensionality to the relationship that a lot of people don't realize is accessible.
I 100% agree and have felt that work and embodied it. One of my favorite little practical tools that you've taught Andrew and I, and Andrew's really good at this particularly, is asking when there is a moment of reactivity in the dynamic where there's a very likely possibility that we're about to go into a loop. He or I, but he's really good at this. He will ask me, how old are you right now?
Yeah. It's a great question.
How old are you right now? Yeah. And it immediately, first of all, it adds this layer of hilarity to the situation. Like it's reparative in that it's silly. Like there's a silly aspect to, yeah, how old am I being right now? And he also delivers it in his typical, very playful way. I think it would come off very differently if there was like a condescending tone. But that's been really massively impactful for us. Would you say that inner child work is shadow work then, because it is dealing with like these subconscious patterns?
That's a complex question. I would say yes and no. If you're framing the shadow as parts of us that we have, and I'm going to bring in IFS a little bit for those of you that know IFS, an exiled part, a vulnerable part that is holding wounding or that didn't quite get the care that it needed, and it's pushed to the background of who we are. We have our performing self, the presentation to the world that gets the most accolades or the world receives the best. And then we have these vulnerable parts that are protected by the forward-facing self, or we could call that like our protectors.
Yeah.
So in shadow work, it could be the positive parts of ourselves, the vulnerable parts of ourselves, the weak or ugly parts of ourselves that we put away in the background. If we're describing shadow that way, then yes.
Would you say it's like maybe like golden shadow? Like our inner child is like our
Yes,
golden shadow.
I would. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. It is where we can find the core of who we are and come into wholeness. So it is the gold.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into a next piece that I want to talk about, which is, yeah, like the golden shadow is actually like really fun and beautiful and liberating to bring forth and to liberate. And for those that aren't, just to kind of define golden shadow, to me, the golden shadow are those parts of ourselves that are actually gifts that get to be integrated, that we've shut down, hidden, suppressed because it receives some type of unwanted attention or interaction or projection from others. So an example could be like maybe you're an incredible singer, but when you were a kid, you were yelled at for being loud, for singing, or maybe your choir teacher said you were off pitch one time and that totally shattered your confidence. And so then you never sing and you hide that part of yourself. And that's like a very like tangible example, but there are so many more energetic experiences like that. But it's really interesting. And I don't know if it's because we're just masochists or what, but like we want to like give me the deep shadow work that's like heal this like really, tough part of ourselves. And I think that that's why a lot of people are drawn to plant medicine, for example, and people are doing lots of plant medicine. Sort of similarly with sexuality and shamanic sex spaces. Although, like, I don't want to discount that these spaces have great capacity for healing, but that really enrolls people. Like, people are very fascinated by those types of work. And again, even for me, I was like, nah, inner child stuff, not that. Like, what is that about, do you think?
So first, it's socially accepted. In growth work communities that have growth mindset, it's been normalized and seen as the path to enlightenment or spirituality to do these things.
Yeah.
And usually there's some type of guide, whether it's someone guiding it or the medicine's guiding it. And there is a beautiful catharsis in that. And in child work, I think the piece that really people have an averse reaction to is it is a deep meeting of the self.
Yeah.
You are naked and you're stepping forward into feeling the core of your wounds, where you began with no medicine. And so I think people really need to hear, like, why would that benefit me? Because it's uncomfortable. But when you're really enrolling yourself in deep change work, it is uncomfortable. So this work is uncomfortable. And I think I uniquely offer this in a way that is deeply vulnerable and heart-centered, but also really fun.
Yeah.
You have to be able to laugh and cry when you're doing this type of work. And not everybody in this lifetime will be willing to go back and touch their core wounds, like where it all began. So oftentimes we're scratching little pieces of it or having little moments of it when we do the sexuality work or the medicine work, which I think is lovely work. And it doesn't holistically scratch that itch all the way. So the people that come and do the child work, I commend them. They're incredibly courageous to get that naked with themselves.
Okay, beautiful. And I'm curious to know a little bit more about how you found yourself in this, especially like, I know some of your other work, some of your other journeys. Obviously, you facilitated all over the world on themes of shamanism and sexuality. And then obviously this is a big part of your work, but this is where you're putting a lot of your time and energy in this part of your life, it seems like. And so, yeah, how did you find yourself zeroing in on this?
Here. I love the sexuality and shamanism work. It is near and dear to my heart. The piece that allowed me to complete my childhood and feel the most liberated was the inner child work. And I worked with Dr. Barry Green. He was a master in Tai Chi, Qigong. He ran a body-mind school, and he was also a clinical psychologist for 40 years. He passed away in 2019. And doing his nervous system regulation tools paired with the nervous system upgrade tools was profound for me. And there was a moment after I did this work with him that was really potent for me. I hadn't been speaking with my mom for 6 months, and we were in a big crunch.
Yeah.
And she sent me a letter, and I was nervous to read it. And I got up that morning and was like, okay, I'm going to read this. And I read it, and I know it was the best she could do, but it was quite passive aggressive and critical. And I was preparing, embracing my body for reactivity, the way I would normally react. And it wasn't there. So I said to myself, all right, I'm going to go have a cup of coffee. Maybe I'm just not awake enough. And I went back and read it. And I felt spaciousness. I felt compassion. I felt a shift from my perception, which is from the I, to perspective, being able to hold her perspective and my perspective. And so I called him up and I said, I know it's early to ask for coaching, but I received this letter and I don't know what to do. And he said, now that you are neutralized in the triggers around this, now you have the opportunity to respond to her. And it blew my mind. I'm like, wait, we can get rid of our triggers? He said, yeah, what do you think we've been doing all week? And I said, this is profoundly liberating, because getting my nervous system current so I'm not living in the past and upgrading to only being able to react to right now was profound for me. So more and more I find doing this work, I have more capacity to be here and now because I'm more whole and complete with what was running through my nervous system in the background.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And it completely shifted my relationship with my mother. One of the ways I perceive coming into wholeness with our childhood is my mother gets to be any other imperfect human on this planet. She already raised me. I don't need her to be my mommy anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so would you say now you're in a place, like, what is your relationship now with being like your mother? Or like, what does it look like on the other side of this work in relationship to self and inner child?
So I got to have the biggest test possible. Last year, for a year and a half, my mom and stepdad came to live with me. So they were in my house for a year and a half. And there was such a beautiful moment where my mother and I had a rupture, and she went into avoidant patterns and was unavailable to have a process with me. And so I felt my inner child in all the moments where my mother was avoidant and wasn't available to show up for me emotionally. And I sat with my little self for a week, and we cried, and I held her, and I showed up for her, and I said, I'm not abandoning you. I'm here with you. And at the end of the week, I went back and had this conversation with my mother. I said, what's coming up for you in having this clearing with me?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I'm afraid you're going to criticize me or yell at me. And I said, who did that in your past? And she said, my mother.
Yep.
And I realized in that moment, wow, I have an opportunity for transgenerational healing with my mother because I'm clear and don't need her to be my mom right now. So I got to embody a healthy version of her mother for her. And I looked at her and said, I'm not going to criticize you and I'm not going to yell at you, but we do need to clear this. And we had this profoundly beautiful moment of transgenerational healing with she and I and she and her mother. And I got to hold this beautiful point of love for my mother.
Yeah, to me, that's what it means to be a leader in love. Like, that's what it means to be a priestess for your lineage.
Absolutely.
Wow, healing generations, healing your lineage. Really cool.
Doing this work, you're a disruptor. Mm-hmm. You're a disruptor of the lineage and the patterns. And it also means you get to feel the whole lineage and pattern for your whole family and for generations to come.
Yeah, super cool. I want to mention here, because I forgot, Stacy is also going to be guest teaching in the Pleasure Priestess, which is awesome, and bringing more of this work and relational mastery in. But again, what a representation of being a leader in love. Like, you have really taken a stand for this world and for your life and for your family. It's really beautiful and really powerful. I had a similar relationship with coming into relationship with my inner little. And that was part of the reason why I was like, I don't need the inner child thing. I already feel really connected to my inner child, which wasn't untrue. But for me, one of the things that I realized was, I am using the best qualities that my parents gave to parent my inner child. They made a lot of mistakes, and I've disrupted some of the negative ways that they would interact with me and with my siblings. But they also didn't give a totally positive imprint of what's possible. So I took like the little things that I had. And one of those things was like, let's have fun. Let's have fun. Let me treat you to special things. So that was basically my relationship to my inner child, was like, I'm going to treat you to special things. But there wasn't like a deep connection, like a deep listening, like you had mentioned, where you spent that week really in holding your little inner little and communicating with her and allowing her to feel seen and heard for all the things and in all the ways that your parents did it. And so that was a big part of my process at liberation was, oh, my inner child isn't just about doing things with myself that my inner child would love. It's also about like actually being there, you know?
We often perpetuate the same patterns that our parents did. So if we were ignored, we tend to ignore.
Yeah.
If our parents were impatient, we tend to be impatient with the emotional expression of our inner child. So your inner child was so adorable, by the way. Just
thank you.
And this is one of the things, like seeing to the core of who people are, you can't help fall in love with them. But a lot of people have done inner child work. They're like, I've done it with my therapist. I've done a journey. A lot of people work with their inner child in medicine journeys. And the difference of what we're doing in this week is we're actually almost having a redo on our childhood. Mm-hmm. So we get to re-experience our childhood through corrective experiences. And corrective experiences is finding an emotional, potent, new reference point, the upgrade, in the present moment.
Yeah.
And really feeling that upgrade and where that can take you in your life. So finding a new neural pathway in ourselves over and over and over during the week.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought in this concept of corrective experience, because it's something that I had experienced before your workshops, but I think that you were maybe the first person that I had seen put a label to this type of healing, having a corrective experience. If you're a woman who considers herself spiritually awake, deeply devoted, already walking your path with intention, then listen up. I know you've manifested, meditated, sat in ceremony, you know the language of ritual and reverence. And still, you know your pleasure and sensuality hold even more possibility, because erotic embodiment is about moving, speaking, creating, and leading from the deep intelligence of your womb, your heart, and your pussy. The Pleasure Priestess Initiation is an invitation into that next octave. This is a year-long tantric mystery school for women to be initiated into the sacred art of orgasmic leadership, to reclaim your dark feminine gifts, heal the sisterhood wound, and seduce the world into a greater good. This is where we do life and love together online, in ritual, month after month, and of course in the flesh for a juicy in-person immersion. Inside, you'll explore potent tantra practices that are meant to be lived and adapted to share with your beloved, your sisters, and maybe even with the world through your own offerings, community, and facilitation. You'll be held in a field of high-level support with guest sexperts, medicine women, and embodied leaders who are already walking this path alongside you, as well as 24/7 access to our electric WhatsApp temple to stay connected, supported, and in celebration of this tantric life. The Pleasure Priestess is open for enrollment now to start at the end of April. But as soon as you join, you get access to over 100 hours of previous Tantra trainings, resources, and the vault of our past guest teachers. This is an initiation into your power, into your pleasure, into the woman you know you came here to be. Click the link in the show notes to claim your seat in the temple, or visit us at www.talktantratome.com/pleasure. So I'd love to go more into that and like, how do we open ourselves up to the possibility of having a corrective experience when we feel so afraid? How do we do that in like a safe way?
So,
quote unquote safe.
Yeah, safe. We're 5 times more likely to focus on the negative as humans. Yeah. And that's typically a protective mechanism, because we're afraid to re-experience things that are painful.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have that painful imprint and that negative core belief that comes in, we try to manage around it so that we don't feel that again.
Yeah.
So with corrective experiences, there's two things. We're either seeking out and trying on new ways of being, again, getting uncomfortable to try something on and see if we get a new reference point.
Yeah.
So it could simply be asking for what we need and having someone show up really well.
Yeah.
It could be, instead of complaining, we're vulnerable about the impact of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's choosing something different and getting a different result. Or it's scanning the environment and seeing where there is possibility or difference that we weren't seeing before, because our perspective is stuck on the negative or still stuck on the old way of seeing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we end up obviously choosing partners in many ways that have some relationship to our parents. Either they're very similar, they're very different. I think that you have like a whole breakdown of the, you have a whole prescription.
Usually people, when we get to that part of the workshop, they're just like, oh, wow.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And yeah, like, I mean, in my husband and in my husband's relationship to me, we both see each other's parents in each other, good and bad. And there are ways that like we will also project our parents, like when we're not even you know what I mean? So anyways, it's really interesting. What was the question I was going to ask here? How do we be mindful of that going into dating, going into relationship, whether we're like currently mingling, single and mingling, or if we are in relationship and are like, did I fall into that trap?
This is a great question, and it's about vetting.
Yeah.
Vetting for right partnership. And I see this over and over and over in my practice, where people didn't take the time to vet well, and they don't even know the criteria in which to vet. So I'm going to break it down. So the childhood piece is, we often choose someone that's similar to our parent because that's what we know. It's comfortable. It's our comfort zone. Maybe our parent had bipolar disorder, or maybe our parent was really anxious, and we're like, oh, that's what I know. And someone on the outside is like, that looks like a roller coaster, but you're like, I'm used to being on the roller coaster. And subconsciously, you're trying to have a redo, you're trying to have a corrective experience and do it better with that person, but it's still not choosing from wholeness. The second one I see a lot is the opposite. I'm going to choose someone that has all the qualities my parents didn't have, and it makes us feel like we're in wholeness, but we're choosing from our brokenness. Mm-hmm. So it's understanding, what would it mean for me to bring my whole self to a relationship so that I'm not trying to fix my past, and I'm not trying to have a person complete me. You complete me. It's more of, they're additive. How can I choose someone that's additive to me?
Yeah.
The other part that people miss is the difference between chemistry and the yummy oxytocin, which people tend to rush that. I'm like, why are you trying to grip that? Enjoy it for what it is, but it's not a deep knowingness of who we are. And we feel like we're being really seen in the chemistry, but it's just chemistry. And the invitation is to slow down, enjoy it, but really take the time to get to know the person. My therapist back in the day said to me, Stacy, you will be seen and known so much more going on 3-hour dates to create to a 12, instead of going on a 12-hour date. And I was like, oh, pace myself. The other thing that happens is there's different stages of vetting. A lot of us come in and we start vetting for partnership right away, and you don't have enough information to do that. Yeah. So you can vet for dating. Is this someone I want to keep spending time with, keep enjoying, keep getting to know? Once you get to that point, is this someone I want to call my boyfriend or girlfriend, and deepening? And what's the criteria for that? Mm-hmm. Do I want to cohabitate? So at those stages, the criteria gets more stringent
Yeah.
because they're getting more of your time, energy, and resource.
Yeah.
One of the biggest pieces that I see people miss is, do we have the same level of growth mindset?
Huge.
Because when people get married, you're making this life commitment, and one person might be, this is our commitment over here. But if one of you wants to evolve and grow and change, and it's at a different pace, then you need agreements, not just vows. And these are living, breathing shifts in the relationship over time that meet new versions of you.
Yeah.
And I was just talking with a couple yesterday, in my partnership, my relationship has gone through like 4 deaths because we're so different. The patterns and who we are needs to die, and it needs to rebirth into something new. And those rebirths are opportunities for new ways of growing and meeting each other and falling in love again. But if someone wants to hold it and have it be the same, and the other person wants to keep growing, that's where I see the vetting process doesn't serve. And then you're at a segue point in the relationship.
Yeah, I totally resonate. Growth mindset is absolutely the number one value that I look for, both in romantic relationships, but also in friendships too, if you really want to have that longevity there.
Yeah.
So
can I layer something on that? Then you've got attachment styles too.
Let's do it.
And this is something I'm actually 40,000 words into a nuanced book on attachment, where initially someone might show up in a particular way. Someone with avoidant attachment can be all in the beginning, but once you reach that point where it's safe enough and consistent enough, the fear of engulfment, the fear of losing a part of yourself and revealing yourself is quite painful and confusing. Someone with anxious attachment style, as you get deeper in, becomes more hypervigilant and micromanaging because they're afraid of loss.
Yeah.
So there's a pain point and a vulnerability point. And if the couple isn't recognizing that their attachment styles are playing out in the closer relating, on top of your inner child work, that level of complexity does not set a lot of relationships up for success, I would say.
Yeah, that was a great kind of already starting to answer my next question, which is perfect.
Great.
So yeah, we have this understanding of like vetting the other person. And I was going to bring in this element of, and people change over time. And once they begin to feel safe in the relationship. And I'm curious, what can we do, as I'm not single, but as potential single people, like what can we do to show up responsibly in the relationship to magnetize the correct match/partner? Like how can we show up more authentically, knowing maybe our relating style or our inner child wounding, to kind of minimize some of that? Like we fell in love and now we're 3, 6, 10 months into the relationship and I'm seeing a completely different dynamic and I love you, but also what the fuck's going on?
So there's twofold there. It's what am I willing to accept? Like we set our own standard of care. And we often compromise that when we're in a paradigm of lack.
Yes.
So if I feel like there's not enough for me or I'm not going to get what I want, that's the places we'll compromise ourselves in relationship. So the first is starting with, am I coming from a paradigm of abundance when I'm stepping into dating? That I get to filter and be picky about what works for me.
Yep.
The second is asking the right questions to the people you're dating. Did you feel loved as a child? If you didn't, what did you do about it? And it's not, I just got over it. Because if they didn't actually do the work to resolve that, they're going to play that out with you. And do you feel available for that whole rite of passage with them coming into their wholeness? That's something you really want to sign up for.
Yeah.
The other piece is recognizing in yourself, what is my attachment style? So it's great to work through your attachment style. You don't have to have done all the child work. You don't have to have done all the attachment work to be in partnership. Probably some people are sitting here going, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be dateable. You are. It's just the consciousness of, what is my attachment style and what can I do about it to work in coming into security? what am I doing to resolve my core childhood wounding within myself, not just with another person? Because the secure attachment starts with ourself and our inner child. When our inner child feels secure with us, they're going to feel more secure with another person. So it's that transparency to let someone in and let them know, hey, here's my tender points. Here's my wounding points. Here's a work I'm doing on it. And how can we collaborate with these? Because they're going to come in with their own pieces too.
Yeah.
But where another piece with dating and others is, if they're not meeting themselves emotionally, how on earth are they going to meet you emotionally?
Such a good question. Such a good question to ask. And as it relates to like going into the relationship, stepping into the relationship, how do I want to phrase this?
Imperfectly.
Imperfectly. Great invitation. Yeah, I what I want to kind of speak into is like, okay, you talked about being a leader of love in your family, right?
Yeah.
Like making this invitation to your mom. I also think that there's such an invitation for that in dating and in relationship too. Like, I think that it can be very easy to be like, oh, they're not meeting me, they're not matching my standards. Peace out, right? And I think that there's definitely like discernment in that, and that's a wise choice in many circumstances. But I've also seen it really powerful to be the leader in love in dating a relationship, to be very clear, ask for what you need, and give them a chance to step up to the plate, right?
So that's like when you both commit. Like we're committing to be in this together, and you bring consciousness and care to those wounded parts.
Yeah.
And there's a beautiful, beautiful segue in a relationship where we put the relationship on the altar in front of us. And there's a place where we go, let's collaborate together. Let's look at this together. And a lot of relationships, people, I'm making you the problem, or I'm the problem. And really it's, let's look at it together. What are the patterns together? What are the dynamics together? Sometimes it's really crunchy when one person needs one thing and the other person needs the opposite. And can we not make each other bad and wrong, but we can hold love at the center and collaborate together and look at the pieces together. Here's my broken part. Here's your broken part. And how do we do this together? And that's where a relationship gets really beautiful. You can come into secure attachment together. You can support each other's inner child in those moments. So when your husband says, how old are you? And you're like, I'm 7. It's so beautiful and touching when he can meet that 7-year-old and go say, hey, what do you need? How can I support this little part of you being seen and heard and validated? Yeah.
1,000,000%. Love how you tied that back together. I'd love to move into, because I think that this is related, this idea of right relationship, both with dating and in long-term relationships, finding like, what does right relationship mean to you?
Right relationship is being as current as possible in the relationship. One of the places where we get stuck is we stop being as authentic and honest. And I have so much compassion for this because we're afraid to hurt each other, because we don't want to lose the other person. And it becomes higher stakes the more we're invested. And so there's these micro withholdings that happen where we're either not honest with ourselves about it because we don't want the impact, or we're not honest with the other person. And those can build up over time and cause fragmentation in the relationship. So getting current really means being deeply honest and authentic and raw about what's arising in the relationship, and not being afraid to lose it. Because the beauty is, if you're constantly being yourself and bringing forward your needs, the relationship has opportunity to be fresh and new each day. But if we're not doing that, it creates this backlog, almost like emotional constipation in the relationship.
Not hot.
It's not hot. It's not hot. And when we're not speaking about these things, we also can turn our partner into our parent. And that's not hot either. So we lose the polarity when we're not honest.
And what are some of those common like themes that tend to come up in relationship where there is stickiness that you see?
Oh, there's so many. Okay. There's certain topics that
Yeah.
are hot topics. I'll just say a few. Kids, having kids, raising kids. It's so high stakes because everybody wants to do it right and they have their imprints from their child
Yeah.
and what we think we should do and how it should go. Another is money,
Yeah.
our relationship to money, sex, our relationship to sex, and how we communicate.
Yeah.
So those 4 tend to be hot topics.
I'm
But-
laughing because I've been in all of that. I'm like thinking
I
about the
know.
repair process and all
I
the
know.
things.
Okay, I just lost the question. Come back to the question.
What are the main topics or themes that people tend to find?
No, that's what I actually answered. But
okay.
we lost the plot. It's great. There was a deeper answer around that. How it was more about, I think it was more about how we find our way through those pieces.
Yeah, how do we find our way through those pieces?
And you were asking about right relationship too.
Yeah.
So right relationship to these pieces, when we hit these hot topics, how willing am I to reveal myself?
Mm-hmm.
How willing am I to be wrong? The least important part of a fight is who's right. It doesn't work. It's like dropping the pride of that.
Yeah.
And humbly being willing to look at what's my responsibility.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to responsibility. Intention's beautiful. And we most of the time we're well-intentioned. However, that's not always the impact.
Yeah.
You can have the best intentions and the impact not be that. So you have to have enough ego strength to not shame spiral and be willing to own your impact with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Another piece is we can become polarized in different ways that aren't useful. When one partner tends to be less engaged, time, energy, resource in the relationship, the other partner can be over robust in that area.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a pulling away and a pulling in that happens.
Yeah.
And the one that's micromanaging, controlling can feel like a parent figure. And then the other one starts pulling away. So that's one dynamic I see a lot.
Yeah.
Another dynamic I see a lot is not respecting each other's flow in processing. So one will be really quick because in their household, you have to be spitfire, you have to be quick in getting it out. And the other needs more time to reflect and feel. And so when the other needs time to reflect and feel, they often freeze and just blurt out answers that don't feel good or even thought through by the other person. But then taking the time out to really land, the other person feels abandoned. So there are these dynamics that show up that are quite normal, but it takes the sexy out.
Yeah.
It takes the sexy out. And so when we can stop and slow down and feel each other and feel the patterns and not make each other bad and wrong, that's where the sexy gets infused back in.
The I would rather be in love than be right has been a big initiation for me personally and for Andrew, but particularly
yeah,
for me.
I could see that with you.
So I really value that one and love that one, and that journey and coming closer rather than putting your feet in the sand in your own ends of the sandbox as children, like this is my sandbox, and coming into the center where you can like build a fucking castle together is so magical, right? And for me, before getting into marriage and before having really long-term relationships in general, I had done a lot of work, but it's really only 10% of it, right? Like once you step into a relationship, that's where rubber meets the road. And it's like, have you really done your work? Like what's really going on under the surface there?
So can I say something about that? This happens in every relationship.
Yep.
A lot of us have this romanticized ideal, especially if we're attracting from our inner child patterns.
Yeah.
And it's totally okay if we have broken bits, unhealed bits, going into relationship, but there's this point of disillusionment where it's like, you are not what I thought you were. This relationship isn't what I thought it was. And that is such a beautiful opportunity to drop the perfection, to drop these points of that it's consistently going to be this way, because who someone is authentically at their core with all the messy bits is always going to be more beautiful than what we project onto them. But there's fear there. There's fear in that moment. I remember that moment for you, actually. You're like, what's going on? Who are we? What are we? And this is such a tender, beautiful, brave moment in a relationship where we're deepening under the surface of, I don't need you to be perfect for me, and I don't need to be perfect for you. And it's going to be really uncomfortable when we're not.
Yeah, it's interesting because I really feel like there's this balance in this world and work where there's a lot of compassion for the other and compassion in seeing their inner little, but there's also this like, you know, vet and like, don't be in scarcity. And like, what would you say to women that like really want long-term relationship, a life partner? Because I feel like there's a lot of women that I know in my friend circle that listen to this podcast otherwise that want that, but they're like not feeling met. Like they're in the, like, what would you say to those types of women?
So, well, there's a different, the last statement you said there changes the question.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to the first part of your question, which is, it is beautiful to have an innate desire and longing to be in partnership, to be known, to have intimacy, into me you see.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the human experience. And part of it is how much of myself can I actually reveal and take off that performing mask and bring my full self to my relationship. So that's a beautiful desire. Where we go into suffering with that desire is where we attachment hook. That's not the same as attachment style. We hook into an outcome. I need this in order to be happy. So we go into longing and thirsting for that relationship, and it takes us out of center and it consumes us in a way that isn't beneficial.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be with the welling up of that desire. And even in the becoming of who you want to attract, that's beautiful too. But there's a point where if it's consuming us too much, it's stealing our happiness and our joy.
Yep.
Do you want me to answer that differently?
No, that was great. I loved that. Yeah. It's interesting because my relationship to life partnership has run the gamut, but I wanted it so bad for so many years. And the reality is that I'm so happy that it didn't happen until it happened, because I had all of that space to really step into who I am and my power and my purpose. Whereas like what I do is a little edgy. It's a little out there. It's not for every dude. It's just not. That's their loss, you know, in my opinion. But like I dated many men that were like very challenged by my work. And so I'm happy that I ended up not stepping into those long-term relationships until I knew who I really was. But then there was a phase where I had to really surrender to the longing of like, I really want this. And let me get clear on why and where that's coming from. Is that my conditioning of happily ever after? Is that a genuine desire? And I had like a 6-month sort of like solo poly chapter and came out the other side really clear. So I think that there's a beauty to the longing. And for me, that looked like really feeling the longing, doing my little ritual about calling it in, and then letting go. Just trusting.
Yeah. You know, my intention for this year is bring the mountains to me.
Love it.
And when we're actually ready for it and we trust the universe's plan, what we're desiring is supposed to be part of our journey. It will show up. It may not show up in the time you expect or the way you expect.
Yeah.
But your soul's journey, what needs to happen in this lifetime will happen. You don't need to force it.
My plan's better though. My plan's better than God's, Stacy. You don't know. Mine is the best.
Oh, that's so you, Leola.
I know.
But I want to ask you though, when Andrew showed up, what made you Like what in you said, oh, I want to give myself to this.
Yeah.
He is meeting me in particular ways that really work for a partnership.
Absolutely. And it was perfect. Like God's plan was better. Spoiler alert, mine was not better, but that's how it feels for me so often. And that's a beautiful, perfect little dynamic that I get to explore within myself, and continues to be a journey. I want to end on one last story from Liberation because it's kind of related to this. And I feel like it's sweet and potent and powerful. I don't want to share what exactly happened because I want to leave the mystery. But in essence, we were doing some work around speaking to or aspecting with our parents and saying the things that we might not have been able to say to them. And so I went in and I did my piece. I had my little ritual moment. It was potent, powerful, deep, sweet. And I look over and, Andrew was watching me in my process because that's just how it was set up. And he mouths to me, I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud of you for going there and like doing it and fully being in, like fully leaning into the hard piece, to the edgy, whatever. And it was like, oh, he's proud of me. And I was so excited and so happy, and that's sweet. Like on the face, that's sweet. But then after we were done, I wanted to talk to him about it and be like, oh, why were you so proud of me? And like, let's talk more about how proud of me you are. And I had this moment of, oh, I'm like looking, like I'm making him my dad now. Like I just had this whole process with my dad. We're like, and now.
Are you going to be my good daddy?
Yeah. And so here we are. And then, so what I ended up doing was just stopping, taking some space from him. He didn't do anything wrong. Like he was fully there to talk about it, whatever. But I started just saying, I'm so proud of you to my inner little girl. And like, just like, and then it was like, oh, this can all be self-sourced. And of course, it was nice to have that corrective experience, quote unquote, with my husband and the masculine in general. But that was a really sweet, powerful moment for me, and has been like life-changing moving forward. Whenever I notice myself starting to really attach to someone else's response to who I'm being in the world, it's like, well, what do I actually think about how I've shown up? So I don't know if you have any final thoughts.
Oh, I
that,
sure have something for this. So the way I like to frame it is I ask the question, do you want to feel special to other people? And the majority of people say, well, yes, of course I do. And then I say, if I want to be special to you, Leola, then I'm outsourcing my special to you. Mm-hmm. So I have to meet your criteria of what it means to be special. And if I do that well, you will treat me special, but based off of what you think treating someone special is. So if we overlay the 5 love languages, you might give it to me in a particular way that doesn't even resonate for me. So the margin of feeling special is based on performance. And so what I tell people is, I don't need or want to be special to you because I know I'm special. I understand my own uniqueness within myself and on the planet, and so does my inner child. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, but it does mean that it's here. Mm-hmm. And so when I know that, and I find other people that know they're special, we're not strategizing to get something from each other or to feel a whole from our history. We just get to rise and love together in a really beautiful way. And so my specialness and their specialness gets to dance. Yeah. So we get to create beautiful things together. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the benefits of self-sourcing the specialness. So everybody else that feels like I'm special, it's just a cherry on top.
Okay, final question, I promise. So I'm assuming that you still have moments every once in a while where you notice yourself outsourcing your specialness, validate. Like, how do you track that and get back on a more empowering course?
So I would frame it different, actually.
Great.
Because I can have moments of insecurity, or fear, or vulnerability, or crunch, just like any other person. But my baseline is I'm enough no matter what. Mm-hmm. And since I've reached that point, I don't go below that. Even if I made a mistake, even if I have a negative impact, like my baseline is I'm enough exactly as I am. And I believe everyone on this planet has the potential to reach that place. And that's why I do this work. I wouldn't do it otherwise. And there's this incredible peace in that, that it doesn't matter how much I mess up, that I get to be right here.
Okay, final question. What was the moment when you made it there, where that baseline was reached? What shifted it? Was it just a bunch of things over time, or was there a moment where you realized it or it massively?
That's a great question. I was abandoned. Straight up left, ghosted in a really important relationship. And so I was facing my deepest fear of being left. And there was a moment in there where I was crumbling and breaking, and it took me all the way back to that original core wound that all of us share, because we all have to abandon ourselves as love to a degree to receive the love of our parents so we can survive, and we outsource it back to them. So one of the key components of coming into wholeness in this lifetime for every human is reconciling the abandonment to self. So in that moment, I chose, I'm not going to abandon me. I'm going to keep showing up for me and showing up for that little girl until she believes that I'm not leaving.
I love that this heartbreak, that was such a Stacy moment.
I'm quirky and
for those not watching, she's like choking herself on her necklace. It's flopping around on her chest. I love you. I love that this heartbreak was such a powerful initiation for you. What a moment of true deep alchemy. And that's so much of what this work and this path is about. And so if you're listening to this and you're hearing this, the path, like if you're in that right now, if you're in heartbreak, if you're in abandonment, if you're in grief, this is your invitation to get curious about what the harvest can look like.
That it is such a potential opportunity to come into more wholeness. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay, so where can people find you, do your work, etc.?
2 different avenues. drstacyellis.com is where my private practice resides. I work with couples, I work with individuals, and my passion project, heart for the world, is my liberation workshops, liberationworkshops.com. We have the inner child experience for adults. And this last week, we just launched the adolescent experience for adults, which you haven't done yet.
Yes.
Absolutely phenomenal. So we take you back into a real lived experience of childhood and adolescence. Who hasn't had awful experiences in adolescence? Most of us have. And we take you back through and offer the opportunity to do the work with the aspect of your inner child, with the aspect of your adolescent, and rewrite history in your nervous system. Really fun, really deep, really heart-centered, powerful work. And I do these workshops all around the country.
Yeah, one thing that we didn't have a chance to talk about was how you weave the nervous system, and I don't know if I would call it trauma-informed energy.
It is trauma-informed,
into the space. And it is, I've never felt more empowered, safe, and like honestly treated like an adult than at the inner child experience.
Can I say one last thing on that? I think there's a misconception about trauma-informed being rigid and controlled. It's actually the opposite. It's giving more choice points so people can really deeply listen to themselves and choose where they need to go next based on if their nervous system is regulated, if they're home in their body and can really choose well. And also understanding that we all dissociate, we all check out, and normalizing that. And also having people that are really attuned to what it means to re-traumatize yourself and actually create heart-centered safety. So all of this body of work is trauma-informed.
Really, really, I mean, even just being in your workshops, witnessing you has made me a better facilitator. So I appreciate you show up.
You're welcome.
Inspiring. All right. Well, Stacy will also be guest teaching in the Pleasure Priestess, talking more, about relational mastery. Thank you so much, Stacy, for being here today. And thank you to the listener for opening yourself up to this wholesome conversation. And we'll catch you next time on Talk Tantra to Me. Ta-ta. If you are loving this podcast and are ready to take it a layer deeper into a more embodied practice, then I highly recommend you check out the Higher Love Club Vault. This vault has over 50 hours of transformational teachings on Tantra, sacred sexuality, shadow work, conscious relationships, money as a lover, inner child, divine feminine, divine masculine, so many incredible teachings and guest experts. And it's all self-paced and includes actual guided practices. The best part, again, is it is completely self-paced. You can tune in whenever you desire. We have an app that you can log into and access at any time. And here's the real kicker. Guess what? I'm giving you a month for free. Yes, that's correct. Use the code EXPAND, EXPAND, and you will get 1 month for free. And after that, it's still only $33 a month for unlimited access to all of these incredible teachings. So there's like zero risk to try this out. Please check out the link in the show notes to join. It's the Higher Love Club Vault. Can't wait to hear how you integrate and embody these juicy teachings.